When Sonic Generations landed on the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 consoles, it was hailed as one of the greatest of its time, with combinations of 3D and 2D gameplay, celebrating moments from Sonic's history, and options for customization. Each stage allowed for musical changes, ensuring that any Sonic fan could commemorate the milestone in their own way. Blasting through heavily detailed and colorful stages from classic, Dreamcast, and modern eras, Sonic Generations detailed a short but memorable celebration, leaving players desiring more. And more did come. Only a few weeks later, on November 22, 2011, Sonic Generations went portable with the Nintendo 3DS. The title brought with it new stages, bonus content, and modes, but because of the change in hardware, the expectations had to be slightly altered. But more Sonic Generations was always welcomed, right? Development was underway starting right after Sonic Unleashed in 2008, with talks of a celebratory game. The anniversary title was meant to have more replay value than previous Sonic titles and to take the best of Sonic's history and place it all into one package. When deciding which route to take for the culmination, Sonic Team eventually came up with the idea to showcase both classic and modern differences in the gameplay. With two different types of gameplay, it allowed for Sonic Team to develop the stages they previously had in new ways. The first was the classic formula of 2D side-scrolling stages, like Sonic from the Genesis, the other being 3D stages akin to Sonic Unleashed. During development, a version for the 3DS would be created. Before Sonic Generations launched on the 3DS, there was some speculation if the title would really be released. GameStop had mentioned it in their Game Informer issue of 2011, and even Sega detailed it in an earnings report. However, shortly after the reports were released, it was edited and removed. Finally, Nintendo cleared the air with its May Nintendo Power magazine, solidifying an interview with Iizuka that Sonic Generations would make the jump to the portable. Sonic Generations for the 3DS is pretty similar to the console counterparts with 3 eras, 2 Sonics, and 1 epic adventure. Even the story retains some of the original identity that was on the console. But that's about where all the similarities end. Sonic Generations had some differences on the 3DS. The cast of characters was cut down from Sonic's friends to just Sonic, Tails, and Eggman in their classic and modern versions. Where 3D and 2D gameplay seemed to be the defining mechanic in the console versions, the 3DS presented both Sonics in 2D, a style that I personally found a bit redundant. But Iizuka wanted the 3DS version to have its own identity, and because of that, the largest difference, and immediate difference, would be that the stages on 3DS were all unique. Aside from Green Hill Zone, every other stage would be different. The stages were mainly to take inspiration from recent handheld titles such as the Game Boy Advance and DS. That way players would be familiar with those stages. For whatever reason, the final version only contained 2 stages from handheld titles. I remember finding out the stages for this version and being let down by it. Not that the stages were bad, but I had been wanting the handheld stages recreated. Stages like Route 99 from Sonic Advance 3, Ice Paradise from Advance 2, or even Leaf Storm from Sonic Rush. Now, I could see how it might not work for 3 eras of handhelds, but they could have been nice inclusions. The 3DS version attempted to capture both aspects of Sonic. Because the title wasn't shown in 3D and in 2D for gameplay, Iizuka attempted to make up for it by utilizing different level designs for each version of Sonic. In classic Sonic stages, the level was laid out more for speed and jumping and spin dashing, and using the momentum to overcome obstacles, while modern Sonic stages were mainly used for speed and set pieces in mind. Both Sonics are racing to the goal, with slight variations on their way to get there. Generations, for 3DS, had a total of 7 action stages, with 2 acts per stage. Green Hill from Sonic 1, Casino Night from Sonic 2, Mushroom Hill from Sonic 3 and Knuckles, Emerald Coast from Adventure, Radical Highway from Adventure 2, and in the modern era, Water Palace from Sonic Rush and Tropical Resort from Colors. Modern Sonic played closely with the style of the Rush games, being boost to win. Now, this was even enhanced more here because of the way the boost meter fills. For the first time, aside from just defeating enemies, collecting rings also fills the meter. I noticed that his levels are laid out with set pieces in mind. Sometimes the camera follows behind him while grinding, or sometimes the landscape bends to the foreground and to the background. It gives a sense of depth that you don't usually see in this version. Classic Sonic plays more in tune with the Genesis mechanics, still fast with his spin dash, but momentum and jumping could easily enhance how far that spin dash goes. Classic Sonic takes a little longer on platforming too. One of my biggest gripes I have with this, aside from them both playing in 2D, is that their abilities blend further when Classic Sonic learns the ability of homing attack early on. Classic didn't need the implementation, as it removes a little bit of the challenge that was there to go across enemies. With the original 3 stages, Sonic isn't dependent on on the homing attack. You could avoid it in the future stages, but the design for each stage is more and more dependent on its use for the best routes. The stages all look great. It truly feels that you are exploring a unique world within each stage. Green Hill Zone is bright and lush with green grass. Mushroom Hill is a full green forest that seems ever expanding into the background. Emerald Coast truly looks like an island getaway with its glowing white sand and light blue ocean. Each level and environment is detailed richly to showcase its own unique identity. As beautiful as it is, being only 7 action stages does make Sonic Generations pretty short. You can finish the story in just a couple of hours. It's possibly the biggest downside of this version. The presentation of the story mode is completely lackluster. There is no world to traverse, and instead opting for a stage select screen. Now the stages do look nice here, but I would have loved the option to run between them. And since we're on the 3DS, there aren't many cutscenes. It's just character models standing around and talking, big text boxes, and the occasional movement or flash on screen to indicate that a character got attacked or hit. It's surprising how different the motion on the console versions makes the story when it's so bare bones. Additionally, stages that you played through include my all-time favorite from Sonic Heroes, the special stages. I've been wanting to play these stages for years, and having them here in full 3D is such a glorious win in my book. Experiencing the fast gameplay and barely dodging the spikes as you navigate is so tedious yet rewarding. But aside from how it looks, it's the same concept, but the execution isn't the same. All the special stages are just too easy. It's a fun run through once, but there's literally no need to call this a challenge. Boss battles, if you can even call half of them that, see Sonic racing against Metal Sonic, Shadow, and Silver. The race is called a rival battle, and it's a lot like Sonic Rivals, where you can hit the other opponent and keep running. There's not really much to detail here. I just love to see low poly, Shadow, and Silver. The other traditional boss battles are Big Arms, which has a fantastic remix, and the Bio-Lizard from Sonic Adventure 2, which we know is even now in Sonic Cross Shadow Generations. It looks like they finally got something right here. And the Egg Emperor? Yeah, that doesn't really make sense for the Egg Emperor to be the final boss of the modern era, when Sonic Heroes on the console version was part of the Dreamcast era. But each boss fight is special and has their own gimmicks. I'm just glad that the little water opening on the Bio-Lizard fight from the Dreamcast or GameCube version isn't there to ruin a good fight. You can even see the temple where Sonic and Shadow go super. To attempt to make up for the short playthrough, Sonic Generations for 3DS has a few additional features. There's a versus mode, mission mode, and time attack mode. As well, there's a collection section, very similar to the console version, showcasing character models, essentially a model viewer, a music collection, and guess what? By now you know. You can close the 3DS and keep listening to the music, as well as art pieces. The versus mode is essentially Sonic Rivals, except your only rival is Sonic. You can play locally or online, but now online is gone. It was pretty cool to have a mode like this in Sonic Generations, because even till the final days of the 3DS, you could still partner up with people for matches. And the more you played online, the more you found the best route to take through the stages. In mission mode, just like Sonic Rush Adventure, you find yourself completing missions. There are a total of 100, and I feel like they're really here just to add padding to the game, but some of them are fun enough, or at least warrant the playthrough to unlock some of the goods in the collection section. You could even use play coins to buy your way through missions that might be too difficult, costing about 10 play coins to unlock and complete said mission. Sonic Generations for the 3DS is quite the interesting title. I find myself picking it up every now and then just to run through the stages, but wanting more after the fact. Some stages were not created equal, and this version as a whole wasn't either. It struggles with some pacing through its story, and it gets cut off a little bit too soon. It just feels like there was more that could have been implemented here. What's here has moments of fun, and it tends to be fun, but it's only in the same locations over and over. With some unique unlockables to have, Sonic Generations was created for the Sonic fans who just wanted something more to experience during his 20th anniversary, despite its quality dips. Thanks for watching. Till next time.